I was saying, y'all, it's your boy Rico from StreetScores. We just had that call-in show live stream to give all of our last feelings and reviews and grades of the draft. So shouts out to everybody that pulled up to that. If you haven't seen it, make sure you go check that out. But we're here right now to talk about two major updates that came out today. First of all, and probably most importantly, the thing that y'all care the most about, so we're going to talk about it first, the Washington Commanders, well, technically Washington, D.C., will host the 2027 NFL Draft, y'all. And then also the second half of this video, we'll be talking about how the Washington Commanders will have two joint practices in 2025 training camp as well. We're going to dive into all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. And again, shouts out to all y'all that pulled up to the call-in show live stream and called in and gave y'all opinions on the draft and all of that, man. It was a great show. And without further ado, let's go and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. Again, let's dive right into it, because I'm assuming this is probably, between the two major topics, this is the one that y'all are probably the most excited about and care the most about. So let's talk about that first. I'm not about to sit here and hold y'all attention spans hostage. So, shouts out to Mark Mask, because the first person I ever saw tweet about it was him. He said Washington will host the NFL Draft in 2027 on the National Mall. Source says the official announcement is expected to come Monday at the White House, according to that source. Then you have the original source, like the very actual first one. Again, I saw Mark Mask first, but apparently it was this Cunnet Deal person who was also super early and first on the whole fact that the Commanders were going back to RFK a week ago. Remember that whole thing? He was the one that started all of that. And he tweeted Axios Scoop. And whoever Axios is, whatever this website is, man, anything DC related, especially on the business side, maybe not necessarily football side exactly, but business, NFL related, oh, they're on it. He said President Trump plans to announce Monday that DC will host the 2027 NFL Draft, aiming to hold it on the National Mall. Axios has learned, story with Hans Nichols and Mark A. Caputo. And, you know, just to add an extra layer of trustworthy source, you have John Kahn that also confirmed that we will host the 2027 NFL Draft. And again, just want to reiterate, the official announcement will come tomorrow, as in Monday, May 5th. Also, shouts out, it's May 4th, so May the 4th be with y'all, everybody that's Star Wars fans out there. Just randomly thought of that. But going directly to the Axios article, again, the people who were first on this whole entire scoop, you have Hans Nichols, Mark Caputo, and the Cunnet Deal guy. And I'm pretty sure I'm butchering all of those names, but their original source, shouts out to them. They said in the article, the announcement is expected to be made with NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and Commanders owner Josh Harris at the White House when it's announced. Like, this is very attached to the Commanders. This is not just in DC for no reason. This is definitely a Commanders thing. That's why Josh Harris is involved. Two sources familiar with the plan tell Axios. Driving the news. It comes days after the Commanders and DC officials announced the plan to bring the team back to the city with a new stadium on the site of the old RFK Stadium. The team has played in suburban Maryland for nearly 3 decades. Zoom in. The stadium at the old RFK site is tentatively scheduled to open in 2030, but needs to be approved by the DC Council. That's a whole nother discussion. It will be a part of a massive $3.7 billion redevelopment project that would include the 35,000 seat dome stadium, 6,000 homes, and an entertainment district. And then also shouts out to Mark Mask and Nikki Javala, because they have an article through the Washington Post, and they pointed out the fact that the draft, this one that we're getting in 2027, is technically the very next available one. So whatever went down last week where we officially announced that we're getting RFK, Roger Goodell got on it. It was like, all right, when's the next available draft? 2027? Let's go ahead and give that to DC right now. Because, of course, the most recent draft, this one that just happened just the last week, was held in Green Bay, Wisconsin. But the NFL already announced that the 2026 draft will be in Pittsburgh. So again, the very next open one, just a week after we announced that we're moving back to RFK, Roger Goodell was like, all right, we got to get DC for that one. We need to continue to build this hype for the whole RFK Stadium thing. And then shouts out to Green Bay too, because they have the smallest population market out of all NFL teams, with only 100,000 people that actually live in the city, which is insane. And they ended up having over 250,000 visitors to the city just for the draft alone. Now imagine how ridiculous it's going to be in DC. And hey man, Josh Harris is not playing around. Elite franchise quarterback, elite general manager, elite coaching staff, Dome Stadium in 2026. And just in case you can't wait that long for a major football event to take place in DC, Josh Harris said, all right, give me the NFL draft in 2027 to hold my fan base and the local area over just a little bit. If you're not patient enough to wait till 2030, here's an NFL draft to keep you entertained just for a little while. And Roger Goodell already said that the new RFK Stadium will be a great place to host the Super Bowl as well. I mean, and who would have thought that 2 years ago, man? Who would have hosted the draft? I joked about the draft. I kind of threw that out there, like maybe we could host the draft eventually, but I was assuming that maybe that would take place after we got the stadium done in 2030. Out of nowhere, they're talking about 2027, well before this stadium is supposed to be done, built, and ready to be utilized by the actual team and everything like that for us to host other events. Of course, with the RFK Stadium, they want to get to the point that they're hosting Olympic events. They're trying to bring over like Taylor Swift, who normally wouldn't perform at FedEx Field in Landover. They're trying to host WWE, or they're trying to make sure it's used year round, and not only just year round, but also all the way around the week, not just Thursday, Sunday, Monday when we play games. They want Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, everything, Friday, Saturday, for this stadium to be utilized for a lot of different events. First of all, so they can just get their money back from the ridiculous investment they're putting into this, but also it's just going to be a great entertainment hub for everything, man. Even if you don't care about the NFL, you're going to want to be at that RFK site because there's just going to be so much going on. There's going to be living spaces if you want to live there. It's going to be amazing, man. I'm so excited. I'm going to have to pull up when they first cut that ribbon, man. And I also want to point out the fact that 2027 draft, hey man, if you had to pick one to host, that might be the one, man. We probably lucked up right there because that 2027 draft seems like it's supposed to be serious. You have huge names like Arch Manning, Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, my Georgia dog KJ Bolden. A lot of people are saying that there's going to be a lot of like generational talents coming up in that draft. I mean, shouts out to, this is Sports Illustrated's Andrew Nemick. He even wrote an article breaking down the fact that you'll have the 2027 NFL draft. That's potentially going to be the best class of all time that some people are saying. Now, granted, who knows how life will play out in a couple of years, but a lot of people really are very high on that crop of talent that's coming out in that draft, man. I mean, you have, again, Jeremiah Smith. You have Dylan Stewart, DC's own Dylan Stewart, who plays for South Carolina. Ryan Williams over there at Alabama. Colin Simmons at Texas. Arch Manning, of course, if he doesn't want to go ahead and leave a little sooner and go into the 2026 draft. But a lot of people are projecting him to wait till 2027, which is interesting. DJ Lagway, before that serious injury, was showing some real talent at Florida. And you know, I'm Georgia Bulldog. I don't like Florida at all. If anything, I hate them just as much as Commanders fans are supposed to hate the Cowboys. That's how much I hate Florida. But hey man, that boy DJ Lagway looked like something, I'm not gonna lie. Then of course Dylan Raiola, again as a Georgia Bulldog fan, what reason would I have to root for this guy after the way that he played us at the very last second? He was Georgia the whole way until the very last second. But it's cool though, man. He's still very talented. We'll see what happens there. And then again, my Georgia Bulldog KJ Bolden. Then you have Coy Parrish from the Minnesota Golden Gophers. You have Jordan Seaton from Colorado. You have Cam Coleman at Auburn. I'd probably put him higher up than that. And then you have a bunch of just really talented guys. Julian Sayin, Bryce Young, the Notre Dame defensive lineman, Ryan Wingo, Bryant Wesco. All of these guys are going into their second year of college right now just to kind of keep you up. Well, most of them are at least. But, I mean, again, that's supposed to be this, like, generationally talented draft. Like, a lot of people are feeling like that's going to be the most talented top to bottom draft since that Cam Newton draft. Or a lot of people are feeling like, at least quarterback wise, it's the most talented draft since we got Jaden Daniels and the Bears got Caleb Williams, Bo Nix to the Broncos, Michael Penix to the Falcons, Drake May to the Patriots and things like that. Some people are really high on JJ McCarthy to the Vikings as well. A lot of people feel like that's going to be an elite quarterback class, but also mixed in there an elite class overall with like a generational safety like my Georgia Bulldog KJ Osborne, Dylan Stewart at South Carolina, again, DC zone. Man, a lot of people are really high about that draft. Like, a lot of people are just way higher on those people in that draft class that's 2 years away than people normally are 2 years before a draft class approaches. I mean, they're just looking at these sophomores like, whoo, that's some serious talent right there. And who knows? Maybe they live up to the hype. And imagine the Commanders win a Super Bowl, first of all, and then host the draft and get a great player at the draft that they're hosting. The home crowd would erupt at that draft, man. And y'all know I love streaming the first round of the draft in my own room with all of my setup, all of my screens and stuff. I love it. But hey, man, I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna have to fly up from Atlanta to go to that first day on that one, man. The National Mall, man, come on, man. Gotta pull up for that. And this draft hosting announcement is also great news because it shows that we really have the ball rolling with this whole RFK thing. Because I highly doubt that Roger Goodell and the NFL would choose Washington, D.C. specifically, especially this soon. It's not like there was a deadline or we gotta announce who's going to host the 2027 draft by May 4th. That wasn't it at all. I highly doubt Roger Goodell and the NFL would choose Washington, D.C. specifically if they didn't think that this whole RFK thing would be ready to go and done and all of that by 2030. This is a great sign that whatever hurdles that are in the way right now with this council vote, the NFL at the very least is very confident that it will be resolved, it'll be fixed, and we'll be good to go. Nothing to really sweat about and worry about. And then going back to Nikki Javala again, she had an article with the Washington Post, and through the article she tweeted, breaking: a week after the Commanders landed a new stadium deal in D.C., the NFL is poised to announce the Washington, D.C. as a city will host the 2027 draft on the National Mall. And the reason I'm going back to the article is I feel like they brought up a good point that the awarding of the draft to Washington gives the nation's capital its first chance to host the event ever. I think DC has never hosted a draft before. And so this just goes to show like all of the big impact that Josh Harris, Magic Johnson, Mitchell Rales, and all these guys are having. That DC has never been a spot to host the draft, but suddenly after Josh Harris buys the team, we have a franchise quarterback, elite general manager, already ran down that whole spiel earlier, and then now suddenly we're hosting drafts in DC. It also represents a vote of confidence by the NFL and Washington Commanders and their ownership group led by Josh Harris, like I spoke about earlier, that this RFK thing will get done, even though we still currently technically have some hurdles in the way. We're on like the 5-yard line, but we're not in the end zone technically yet. Harris, a private equity investor, and his partners purchased the franchise and its stadium in Landover, Maryland from Dan Snyder in 2023 for $6.05 billion. The group has worked to restore the franchise's reputation and fan base following decades of turmoil during Snyder's ownership. The Commanders hired Adam Peters as their general manager and Dan Quinn as their coach last year before drafting quarterback Jaden Daniels with the second selection. Named the NFL's Offensive Rookie of the Year, Daniels guided the Commanders to a 12-5 record and the NFC Championship game in a remarkable year-over-year transformation. Let's keep that momentum going, man. Again, NFC Championship. How about maybe Super Bowl? Hosting draft in 2027, new stadium in 2030. Come on, man. Like, who would have thought, man? How we get here, man? And so now moving on to the second half of this video. Another announcement, I was already planning on doing a video talking about this, but then the breaking news of this whole hosting the draft on the National Mall thing came out of nowhere. I had to stop everything I was working on as far as this half of the video and immediately get to that, and then I came back to this. Let's talk about it. Well, apparently the Commanders and the Ravens are going to hold another joint practice this year. We skipped last year. We had our joint practices with the Dolphins and the Jets last year. This time it's looking like the Ravens and the Patriots. And it's crazy too because we had a preseason game against the Patriots last year. We just didn't have a joint practice with them because again we already had ours with the Jets and the Dolphins. But it looks like it's going to be the Ravens again. Remember, we had a joint practice with the Ravens 2 years ago. Looks like we're going to have one again in 2025, this upcoming training camp, because this came from the Ravens side of everything. Harbaugh spoke to the media and said that both the Commanders and Buccaneers, they plan on having joint practices with those two teams, but they're basically waiting on the league in terms of preseason schedule of when to actually like get these settled down, exact dates, all of that type of stuff, and where we're going to do it, when we're going to do it, and everything like that. Because joint practices, you have to know what's going on in the preseason before you can get your joint practices going. So we got to check to make sure, okay, we're playing these opponents and we'll be there, because the joint practice follows that schedule. You know, for the Ravens, for example, if it's technically at Landover, Maryland, preseason game, technically the Commanders are home, then I believe we would have the joint practice in Ashburn, because technically we will host the joint practice. The team that's the home game for the following preseason game after the joint practice is usually the team that's going to host the joint practices themselves as well. And then also you got to figure it out schedule-wise, because say from the Ravens' point of view, since they want to have joint practices with the Commanders and the Buccaneers, if they play the Commanders then the Buccaneers in the preseason, they would have the joint practice with the Commanders and then have their joint practice with the Buccaneers after that. Just to kind of give you a background of how like all of this joint practice stuff works, it's kind of secondary. You got to establish the preseason schedule first, and then you work the joint practices around that. And again, from the Commanders' point of view, this isn't our only scheduled potential joint practice here. You have the confirmation from Harbaugh, but then also remember back during the Combine, the Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel said that we plan on doing a joint practice together. And the Ravens one, I just feel like that should be every year. I'm surprised it's not every year. They're right there. There's technically no away or home when it comes to that, but it is what it is. That one should be every year guaranteed, but we didn't do it last year for whatever reason, but it looks like we will this year. But going back to the Patriots, back at the Combine, this came from Mike Vrabel himself. So every time there's been some joint practice news associated with the Commanders for 2025, it's come from the other team. Harbaugh just came out and said it about us, and then back during the Combine, Mike Vrabel said that the Patriots and Commanders were literally just waiting league approval on joint practices in Foxborough, Massachusetts. So it sounds like the preseason game will take place in New England, because I believe when we played the Patriots last year in the preseason, I think it was like the third preseason game, the final preseason game, I think that one was in Landover, Maryland, right? I believe we were the home team. Well, this time the Patriots will potentially be the home team, and we'll have to travel to New England for the joint practices. And this actually makes a lot of sense too, because should the league approve the practice, it also means the Commanders will have an away preseason game against the Patriots. And I think these two teams match up very well joint practice and preseason game wise. The way that Mike Vrabel coaches his teams, very similar to how Dan Quinn coaches his. Very non-nonsense, very team-led, coach-centric, leader of men type of guy. So I'm feel like that would be a good match as far as joint practices. No nonsense, no foolishness, no unnecessary extracurriculars, hopefully no fights in the joint practices and things like that. Just straight business and productivity. Just the main focus of both teams getting better and staying healthy. I like the idea of joint practices against both of those teams. Now, granted, the Patriots, even with a great offseason, a great free agency class, and a great draft, I'm not sure if they're going to be very competitive. So I wouldn't use the Patriots as like this is where we stand in the NFL. But then again, people need to be doing that to us. We're the ones that made it to the NFC Championship. So if anything, people need to be measuring themselves against us. But either way, my point is joint practice against the Ravens with all of that talent that they have. I think that would be interesting to kind of see if we still got it. Well, was that NFC Championship thing a fluke, or are we really here to stay? Are we going to be one of these teams that's consistently a Super Bowl contender from here on out, as long as Jaden Daniels is our quarterback and Adam Peters is our general manager, making all of the great decisions, having elite free agency classes and elite drafts? I'm really excited, man. I can't wait, man. I know a lot of people don't necessarily care about joint practices as much as I do, but I'm really excited about it, man. And again, I just feel like Dan Quinn and Mike Vrabel are such good matches. And again, the Ravens are right there. Why not have that literally every year? And Harbaugh, with the talent that he has on his team, I feel like they're a good match as well. So those are two like optimal destinations and joint practice opponents right there, or really teammates, because you're not really trying to hurt each other. You're just trying to both, size each other up, improve, work on some things to be like, okay, now that we're going against another team where these guys don't know my good habits and my bad habits, how do I look at my particular position? How does the team look? How does the offense look? How does the defense look? How does the defensive line look? How does our offensive line look? And things like that. So joint practices are very beneficial to both teams that are included. I'm surprised every team doesn't hold at least 2 a year, and I'm glad now that Dan Quinn's here, we can pretty much bet on the fact that we're going to have 2 joint practices every offseason, which is pretty much the max that you can have. And I don't ever expect us to have less than 2. Now, again, I feel like the Ravens should be every year, but even if it's not, if we get 2 joint practices, especially against 2 good, well-ran organizations with some discipline so that they're not trying to hurt our players, getting into fights and things like that, wasting everybody's time, I'm all down for it. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please still farm that like button, still farm the subscription button, and still farm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Really appreciate y'all, man, for the support. If you made it this far in the video, I salute you. I already gave y'all the trivia question for yesterday. Well, technically today, May 4th. So I don't have a new one for you. I'll have another one for y'all tomorrow, May 5th. But either way, man, make sure y'all stay tuned. Of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything. I'm pretty sure all of us are excited about the draft being in DC again. Like I said, I'm gonna have to pull up for that one. You know what I'm saying? Might have to do that. You know what I'm saying? So make sure y'all stay tuned. Let me know, of course, how y'all feel about that. And also let me know how you feel about the whole joint practices situation as well. Let me know how y'all feel about everything discussed in this video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points. Really appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.